comment
Mm-hmm.
was how interesting it was that you made the statement at the very end, which at the budget committee were almost the exact identical words, which was, we don't have an expense problem, we have an income problem. And the task was to challenge how to resolve the income problem. We sat around and tried to cut $15,000 to $20,000 out of the budget, but $15,000 to $20,000 out of the budget wasn't gonna change us to make suddenly a balanced budget. It was just chipping off a few pieces of bark. I mean, it was nothing.
Right.
And we concluded that there was an income problem.
Yeah, and I mean, go back to the simple number that I gave you. Looking at it in comparison to the tithe, you're at half of 1%. You're at half of 1%. Your median is at half of 1%.
Well, and then, so I guess the question becomes, that I first think of, because you saw Father Andrew's attempt at Father Andrew's presentation. So the message I got from the presentation that was made at Clergy Lady was, the first thing you have to do is to communicate. You have to share information with the parish to let them see where we stand with things, okay? But that's still not gonna get people.
Yeah, that won't.
That just provides data.
Yeah, that won't motivate
It's
anyone.
not gonna motivate them.
Yeah, I mean,
But
you do
but
that.
you do have to let them know what's going on.
Yeah, but here, you're exactly right. I mean, and
So
part of
where's the next crossroads?
there's a whole of the 15 steps tomorrow. I'm sorry, Nick.
That's all right.
You'll see. The 15 steps tomorrow, right? There's one whole module, and we're going to camp on that for a good amount of time, is how do we communicate? And that's going to follow the very first module where we look at the science of the studies that tell us what motivates behavior. So, okay. So, but I'm going to tease it out for just a second. So, achieving a budget is uninspiring. I mean, it's uninspiring in business, it's certainly uninspiring in a church. You have to do it, but it's uninspiring, right? I mean,
Agreed.
Taking a shower is uninspiring, but you gotta do it, okay? So don't, get it, okay. So think about it in your own life. When someone motivated you to make a change in something significant, what was it that resonated with you? How was it that they communicated with you? What is it that the way they delivered, what they delivered, the how part is not the important part. And I'll give you a classic example.
Well, let me give you one.
Yeah, please.
We had I was thinking about this just when you said that. We have a project going on. John's son's building a garden, and it's an Eagle Scout project. They had a breakfast in the morning, and we had like 1,100 hits on our website, on our Facebook site, about that project that it really had nothing to do with anybody contributing. We all came to a breakfast, but they were so moved by the fact that this young man had taken a task to do something that was going to be so good for our church, and it had all the ingredients. It had the love,
Right?
it had the trust.
Yep.
What were the other two?
There's integrity.
It had integrity because he was a Boy Scout.
Right.
What's more integrity than
There
Boy
was
Scout?
humility. I mean, he's willing to plant a garden and stuff like this.
And his guys were out here
And he has a team.
serving pancakes
Yeah.
for us all
Right.
to help raise a few bucks.
Right. Now you're 100% right. Now let's go one step further deeper, because you actually said more that was very robust and very helpful in that regard. What he was doing wasn't for his benefit, right? He was doing something to benefit somebody else.
Right.
Well, it was partly for his benefit because he was going to get his Eagle Scout.
Point taken. Point taken.
Yeah.
No, you're exactly right. Just
It was
like
win-win.
Yeah, but that was buried underneath. Nobody even was considering
Right.
it.
No, but just like I'm hoping that all the good deeds we do will matter when we stand before the awesome judgment seat of Christ. I mean, I am not shy about saying the reason why I left my firm and did this is because I was very worried about my salvation. And I needed to start getting really serious about what work I was doing. And I'm sure this is it, but I'm gonna do the best I can. So yes, there's always a person, but there's nothing inconsistent with that, right? In other words, at the end of the day, that may have been what got him started thinking. But there's a lot of different ways you can earn your Eagle Scout credit. You don't have to do that. I mean, I've seen a lot of great Eagle Scout projects, don't get me wrong, and I'm a big fan of Eagle Scouts. But this was very different in one respect, right? So it was in service of somebody else, right? It was taking advantage of resources around it, and it was inspiring in some way. And think about it from a different perspective. So there are people looking and said, look at that kid. Look at what he did. And he's a kid. there's pride, there's, it's one of ours, you know? It's like, I know him, yes, I remember I changed his diaper once, you know? There's all of that. I understand, I understand, I mean, but we all share in that, you know? I mean, there was a girl, I coached Goya Church League basketball for 15 years in Atlanta, right? And we had some really great teams. And one of my girls that was on the team for like 6 years was a chatty person. She talked all the time. And so my rule was when I'm talking, you're either listening or you're running laps. So guess what? She ran a ton of laps. She hated running. She would complain about it all day long. This past week, this kid who hated running, not my kid by the way, ran the marathon in Greece. Her first ever marathon, and she ran it in Greece. And there's that proud picture of her and her family went over there and stuff like that. If you don't think for 1 minute I didn't say, thank you, Lord, I'm glad I had a little part to play in that. So yeah, I ain't my kid, but we all look at that, and there's a really valuable exercise in that. But I think what it also inspires is, if they can do it, what else can we do? And they're helping, they're serving somebody else. What motivates behavior is changing the world, changing lives, making things better, doing something that matters, not meeting a budget, not filling a thermometer, not filling out a pledge card.
So the next two things that got the highest hits on our Facebook page.
Well, your Yido. Your Yido's going to get a lot of hits.
Not even that.
Well, you need to prove your Yido then, because your Yido ought to be.
Was our food, Good Samaritans, and we had the food bank here, and we had a ribbon cutting ceremony. And the third thing was a luncheon or a Sunday event that we did for veterans.
Okay. What's true of all of those? What's true of all of those?
There's a lot of love. There's a lot of
love is there.
recognition.
It was about the
We were looking out.
It was somebody else. It was for the benefit of somebody else. It was honor of somebody else. It was in service of somebody else. It was not about me. This is not our church is doing this. We are helping somebody else. You'll see tomorrow, Martin Luther King's greatest, the most important message is, what can I do for somebody else? How can I help somebody else? How can I serve somebody else? That is what defines. You'll feel greater success when you do something for someone else, and particularly when it's unanticipated and unasked for, than when, I had a great experience 2 months ago. I was out west and I was doing a program, and I had a short gap in between my first program, and I went to a diner to grab a quick bite to eat, and I was preparing my contact for it. I wasn't paying attention. And all of a sudden I kind of looked up for a second, and there was a little commotion one table over from me. There were two nuns, and they were rifling through their little bags and stuff like that, and the waitress was standing there, and I couldn't tell exactly what was going on, and the waitress went away, and I called her over and I said, can you do me a favor? Can you just give me their check, but don't tell them who paid for it? That's stupid. I mean, it's no big deal, right? So she said fine, so she did, and so she went back, and what they were searching for was they had a 10% off coupon. Now this isn't like the equivalent of a Denny's on the West Coast. We're not talking about Capitol Grill here, right? But they had this little 10%. And so they finally found the 10% thing, and they were okay, right? And so,
I know what you meant.
so the waitress said, your bill's been taken care of. I said, well, who did that? And then she made a mistake. She said, well, he didn't want to be recognized. Now, the reason why that was a problem was when you looked around them, there was only one person in that dining room, and I'm sitting one table over there. So it's like, yeah, thanks a lot. So this really sweet nun comes up to me, and it just said, that's so gracious, and tell me what you do. And I didn't want to get into this, so I told her what I'm doing. Boy, that just opened up Pandora's box. And we had this incredible, those two nuns were there celebrating their 40th year as nuns together at this very inexpensive diner, and they were struggling to find that 10% coupon. And this nun looks at me and she said, I can't thank you enough, and I bless your ministry, and she prayed over me, and it was really wonderful. She hands me the coupon. She hands me the coupon and said, use this on your check. And I said, sister, this is the greatest gift I've ever been given, but can I ask you for one favor? Given what I've done for you, will you do one favor for me? Well, what's she going to say now? She said, well, of course I will. I gave her the coupon back again, and I said, I want you and sister, I forgot what her name was, to use it or give it to somebody else. And she says, that's exactly the right answer. And we had the most incredible, I'm still talking about this 2 months later, and it set me back about $12.50. I mean, this was ridiculous. This is unbelievably insignificant. And somewhere there's two Roman Catholic nuns praying for me, and that's not a bad thing. But I'm telling you, in service of others, regardless of how insignificant, and that is the most I tried to think of the most insignificant example I can give you. That's the most insignificant example I can give you. This kid, what you're doing with your minister, that's making a difference. If you don't think that doesn't motivate people, now it doesn't happen overnight, and it's not everybody, because some people say, well, I don't really care about homeless. Some people, I don't really care about the environment. Some people say, I don't care about the fill in the blank, whatever it is you're serving, okay? But if, just dream about this for a second, if 638 people are serving others in maybe 10, 15, 20, or 500 different ways, imagine what happens in this community. And guess, you know what else what happens? Everybody else starts saying, I don't know what they're doing, but I want some of that. It's like that Harry Met Sally in the delicatessen scene, right? I don't know what's here, but I want that, right? They want to know what's going on, what's happening here. And I'm going to give an example tomorrow in the context of one way you can implement your stewardship ministry with small group gatherings, not the small group ministry. That's a whole separate one, but this is the outreach piece, where I actually had, this is true fact, I actually had, in an implementation of this, a parishioner called their president of the parish council and complained because no one had invited him to an event where they were going to be solicited for their stewardship. Now, you imagine that for him?
That'd be a nice problem.
That'd be a nice problem to have. So, in service of others, and that's why I'm saying, let's take the focus from internal and let's push it external. Now, my serving you is in service to others, right? Because you're here, but you're okay. My service to all of you is in service to others. My service to people that I don't even know, whether Roman Catholic nuns at a diner or somewhere on the street, is in service to others. You should spend your whole life figuring out how to do that, but you can, as a church, institutionalize and create opportunities to do that multiply and multiply and multiply, and you'll see over and over again, we have hard data that tells us when that happens, when you've created that culture, right, you never have a financial problem. You have a reverse financial problem. You end up actually having more resources than you have needs, and then you have to build more needs around it. And if you don't think I'm telling you the truth, I can give you examples. Unfortunately, they're not Orthodox churches, but there's plenty of examples where they've created that kind of giving culture and that sense of service to others that has dynamically changed the parish. Doesn't mean there isn't a personal motivation. Doesn't mean I'm getting value out of working with you all. Because I am getting value out of working with you all. You've made me better. I enjoy being with you. You gave me something to do. There are 1,000 different reasons. You helped me on my journey towards something. There's a lot of great things that happen when we work together. But it's not going to happen by putting up financial statements or showing numbers. That no one's going to get motivated by that. I mean, and there's things you can do that are bad. I've done some of them, by the way. You know the single most successful fundraising day I ever had when I was on the parish council at my Annunciation church. We were running short of budget. It was like 30 years ago. I knew none of the stuff I knew now. I hadn't been on my journey. I hadn't read anything. I was a blithering parish council idiot, right? So I said to my parish council members, I said, I got this one. I'll take care of it. They said, what's your plan? I said, you don't want to know. This was before Clinton, so the word plausible deniability hadn't been invented yet, but you get the concept, right? And so this little political humor, it's okay. I mean, it's all right. And so that Sunday, when you drove up to our church, there was a big for sale sign in the front. And everybody came in and said, what is that? I said, we can't afford to keep this church. We're going to have to sell it and move it someplace else. We had the single biggest collection day we ever had. An old lady who we didn't think had two nickels to rub together gave us $10,000, John. It was we were ringing the bell every 5 minutes. And then we realized that had no credibility. It wasn't righteous. It wasn't of God's creation. And I'm still suffering the sins of doing that. But anyway, so that's why I'm confessing my sins publicly. But we can laugh about that.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's okay. It'll work. I promise you. I promise you. You watch. It'll just motivate behavior like you've never seen before. Not the right behavior, but you can. So you can do that once. And then it takes about 5 years to overcome the sin of doing that before you rehabilitate yourself.
It kind of blows the integrity.
Yeah, that's right. So I was going to say, this is not a good plan. I'm giving it to you, so don't use it. I mean, don't use this one. But it requires a shift. It requires a shift. Now, here's one last thing on that, and just because I want to foreshadow all tomorrow, but and you guys have been really great tonight. We're not working hard enough, and we're definitely not working smart enough. And when I say we're not working hard enough, that's kind of hard looking at people who've been at parish council meetings, and you know how tedious and horrible parish council meetings are. Where, you don't come from most. I'm sure yours are different. I'm sure this is not applicable to your parish, but very rarely.
It really isn't.
Very rarely do I talk about people who come back and say, I had the most uplifting experience in my life. I just was at the parish council meeting. They're not always bad, but it's not like you feel like your salvation has taken one giant step forward by attending the meeting. So I'm not saying that's not an important exercise, I'm not saying, but what I am saying is there's a way to transform it, but it requires us to be willing to work a lot harder on our salvation and on our spiritual growth and on our individual growth on our journey of being disciples than we have up to date. And there's no better evidence of that than when you look at the data tomorrow we're going to present from the National Study of Youth and Religion and the Science of Generosity studies that show the single biggest cause for the problem we have with the retention of our millennial youth is us. We passed on a very weak faith. We didn't understand it. We didn't practice it. We didn't make it a mandate in their lives. And I'm going to challenge you. How many, and you don't have to answer because one of you will probably have a good answer, but the rest of us won't. So you don't want to make that person, you want to make the rest of us feel bad. How many times after you picked up your kids from Sunday school or your grandkids or your godchildren, did you ask the teacher, what did you study? What did you talk about today? And then talk to the kids about it over the course of the next day or week? We don't do that. Our kids come back from camp, it's a great experience. Do you know what happened at camp? No, I had a great experience. And then it washes over them. And we don't reinforce their behavior. And it's true about, and part of it is, and listen, I'm very delighted to be from immigrant upbringing and stuff like that. But they didn't really have a great understanding of their faith in the truest sense, not the way we have it now. We joke about it. We call it Yaya theology, right? I mean, that's, and so what could they pass on to their children? And what can the children pass on to the children? Until you move yourself into the intentional Orthodox category, whether you're a convert or cradle, it doesn't matter to me. Until you move into that category and you make it an imperative of your life so that you define your life around being an Orthodox Christian and you define your family's life around being an Orthodox Christian, you're not really going to get the same results, just like you can still keep trying to lose 25 pounds for 25 years. I'm here, like I said, if anybody wants to, I'm happy to sit around and talk. Thank you so very much for being here. I really appreciate your being here. I hope some of you will come back tomorrow because we're really going to dig into some really critical things and actually give you to-do list items. You're going to come away with 34 to-do list items. Here's the last point I want to say about that. There is zero chance you're going to do all 34 of them. I wish you would, but you're not. Just not reality. And if I had an ongoing consulting relationship with you, I'd be back and so we'd take them one at a time. You all are going to need to get together after this weekend and after it washes over you and after the din of my loud voice wears out of your eardrums and decide and prioritize what and how are we going to do. Otherwise, you will have just wasted one weekend of your life that you will never get back again. So that's on you. Thank you.
Thank you.